Hello, welcome to this Equalithon pitch event. Thank you for joining tonight. We could just begin maybe with Martin Wallace. Can you tell us more about your background and why you do this?
Sure. So my background has been in building technology and politics, and I've done that on both sides. And now I'm doing this in our coalition efforts for bridging divides in our country. So I advise Listen First project, and I'm managing technology for America Talks, which is our national event that's coming up on June 12th and 13th. Where we're recruiting people for one-on-one conversations across divides. So at Listen First, we have a coalition of 300 plus organizations throughout the country that are dedicated to using dialogue and relationship building for interpersonal bridge building across divides. And we have various organizations that focus on different types of divides, but rural-urban is one specific area of focus. And so what I work on throughout this ecosystem with Listen First in particular is building shared infrastructure. So we're a support organization for these 300 plus nonprofits, and we try to provide them with the right type of technological tools that can make their work more effective. And so one of the things that looks like is a shared video platform, shared metrics, things that we're talking about here, programming and consulting and advice on how to reach certain audiences and how to capture participant feedback at the end of their conversation events. And so what we're working on is offering up all of these resources to our entire coalition, and then also using them on big national events like America Talks, where the entire coalition all comes together to support one big project.
So I think that America Talks is going to happen from June 12th to June 13th, correct? Excited by the prospect of it?
That's correct. And USA Today has been our primary media partner for that, also Yahoo News. And we recruit via a widget placement, where we have a widget that is a small survey that can be embedded in news articles. People answer a handful of questions and then are presented with a screen that says, would you like to meet somebody who answered these questions differently? And then they're invited to take part in America Talks. So that's something that USA Today is promoting for us, and their entire family of publications under the Gannett brand. They're also placing that widget and recruiting for us.
Did you want to explain a bit more about these two challenges?
Sure. So the first is figuring out what we can learn from any existing efforts to help us in our outreach and messaging and social media usage, our targeting, really the broad spectrum there, in order to better recruit participants across the rural-urban divide. And then the second is a way to capture enthusiasm right after the conversation moment, so that we can then continue to use that to show people what a wonderful experience this can be. And more specifically, having a way to capture testimonials, video testimonials in particular, that we can plug into our exit pipeline for our conversation events.
Well, I think we could maybe begin right away with the first team's presentation. So, Emiko, I see that you're here.
Yeah, I just have a presentation, so let me share that. Okay, I will be just presenting some of the findings from my research, really, and kind of getting at the drivers in social media, like for responses and engagement. This comes from, of course, the idea that Listen First wants to engage more conservatives, especially in the upcoming America Talks event. And because they're skewed a little bit more in involving liberals. One of these strategies that they use is targeted ads, but the question becomes like, what kind of ads? And the data that was provided to me wasn't in detail enough for me to like drive that is. So I went ahead and just did more of a literature research on like, okay, can we learn something from the neuroscience and psychology studies out there? And from that, okay, can I analyze the ads that are actually now being used from these studies, and what can we learn from it? What are the details that are driving the engagement in those ads? So with that, let me start with this question. Are conservatives and liberals' brains different? And it kind of depends on how you want to answer it, right? Like the structure of the brain is not different. Everybody has brains. So, but the way we interpret things is different. So this is a study from Stanford researchers from 2020. I know there's a lot going on here, but I will try to go in detail. So these folks were shown videos of different narratives, and their brains are scanned. And what the bottom picture is showing, the graph is showing, is comparing those scans based on auditory areas of the brain, visual, and these dorsomedial prefrontal cortex, or DMPFC, which is really the region associated with how we interpret narratives. And so when they compared, so it says within, it's saying comparing within liberals or comparing within conservatives or across those. And when they did that, there's no difference in the auditory or visual, but there is a difference in this prefrontal cortex part. So people are interpreting things differently. It's really what this is driving at. And then this is a different study. This is looking at tweets and what words are driving retweets, essentially. So we're kind of proxying engagement and retweets in this category, looking at different topics of gun control, climate change, same-sex marriage. And here on the x-axis is saying, okay, these moral, emotional words, I'm gonna get into this, so don't worry about this for right now, just take it the face value. And how those words, how many words there occur within those tweets, and what's gonna drive the retweet. How those words are gonna be driving the retweet. And within groups, again, this is within the same political ideologies, and then across the ideologies. And you could see for the most part, okay, there's less across, but besides the gun control part, these moral, emotional words are important. And this graph is showing the same thing again. The retreats are happening with the same group, the blue liberals, and then the reds are conservatives. But there's like, you could see here, these are the things that we really care about, these across interactions. And what are these words that are driving those? So these on the left column here are these moral, emotional words, essentially things that kind of drive more emotional, but also there's like a moral context to it. These are the words that they found that are actually driving the retweets. And on the right column, these are in just the, not essentially in that category words, but also they are important in driving those retweets. And when I look at the one of the campaign ads that had the most engagement, this is like one that had the highest click-through rate, and also one of the top comments under the ad. And when you see it, okay, does it have any of those keywords that I just showed you? No, really. But these approve and disapprove is kind of getting at those moral, emotional sentiment. Because when I look at the actual comments, this is just 3 samples. And I actually had to sift through things to find different ones, because like destroy, destroy, destroy was like over and over and over. So you kind of see that, like, even though the ad itself is not using those exact words, it's driving to that emotion. So I think that's why it's like actually being effective of people clicking through it and even just commenting on it. The other one, I'm sorry that the picture is a little blurry. I didn't actually have access to the comments, so I can't attest to that, but there's that word, the threaten. That's like one of those emotional, moral emotional words. This is also the second highest click-through rate. So there's definitely a trend here in the ads. Oh, sorry, and the free is also in the category of the other words that were also able to drive engagement. So from this, I would say, like, I think no matter who you're targeting, these moral emotional words are important in driving. Obviously, these were targeted words, the ads for rural areas in general. And I think one of the successes that the ads are in questions. So they're not judging, making like any judgments or inserting an opinion, because it's like posing a question. It's not even like, is this better or the other? It's just like a pure question and driving at the emotion and moral values that people have. Another thing that we should probably consider in general, it's like we definitely insert our own views when writing. We never know what the other person's going to interpret. And I'm going to show you this, like this dress. It's like a primary example of it, right? I see gold. I know it's blue, but that's what I see. I can't tell you why. But it's a good reminder that I think we always have different views, stereotypes, and unless we ask. So when you're making these ads, perhaps like it's good to have like a second opinion, like how does a person from a different view will see it, just like before it's released. That's really more what I took from like looking at this literature and like comparing the ads that are being used. And that's what I have. If you have any questions, let me know.
This is great. I want to open, for questions. Martin, do you have any question, suggestion, feedback? Want to go further?
I think that's those list of words is very helpful, and it will probably help us in better crafting our future ads. And I know that we didn't have as much data as would have been helpful. So maybe in our next round where we're trying to collect all of that data, it'd be great to use this in doing that.
Yeah, and I mean, also, because I know you couldn't connect who signed up for the event, right? Necessarily. So that data will be like extremely useful either also.
Is there any other data that you think would be helpful for us to specifically seek out so that we can do better analysis here going into the future?
I mean, like if you're using this specific, okay, this is another thing that I probably could have used is like the comments. I know it's hard to get comments of permission to get those data, but that is something that could be analyzed and like target. Like I said, I scanned reading through it. It's not like I actually literally pulled out any of the comments. I just looked, I just kept looking, destroy, destroy, destroy. Okay, there's a trend. It's a biased opinion, obviously, because it's not like I'm actually looking at every single comment. So, but yeah, it's something to consider. It's like being able to pull the comments off of those ads.
I'm wondering personally if the second challenge, which is going to create content for you and what people thought of, recordings of what people thought right after they have connected with each other, is going to lead to possible analysis of how they speak, the language they use, and the keywords that the recurring keywords. Would that be of interest? Because you will, the sample of people who will participate are people who are interested in going towards other, and they're going to use a specific language. Maybe could that be of interest?
Are you asking me? Sorry, or
I'm asking you. Yeah. Sorry.
okay, sorry. I mean, definitely. I think so. I was re-listening to a podcast about from Hidden Brain. It was like literally called Red Brain, Blue Brain, because I was like, oh right, yeah, I should listen to that again. And it has a lot of correlations on what preferences are. So, or preference of like not just views, but like also it would be interesting to see if like there's a preference in like usage of words, and like we'll be able to like drive out like, okay, if they're preferring those words, why is that the case? Like what's actually driving to focusing on those words rather than like these other words from the other views.
Any other questions? I'm wondering on my end if you found any data focusing on rural versus urban. Is that something that is explored at all in terms of language usage? Because we are only talking about conservative versus liberal, but
I didn't really find any, like, not that I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I just didn't target when I was searching like through that literature, of course. So um, that's something I could look.
got it. All right. Well,
And I
thank you
guess
very much. Yep.
I was going to say one last question. Would you have any suggestions if we want to start better testing ads, for how we might want to target or learn in ways that would be more helpful for future analysis? So through your research, did you think of any ideas that wouldn't it be great if we were able to do this and then we could look at that data?
Um, I mean, being able to connect the ideologies is great, but even just the geographical areas, like in this case, just because there's like a strong tide between the uh, political leanings in rural areas, is helpful. I know that was something that we discussed already, so that is already, I'm sure, in the pipes for you. So I'm not sure if that's helpful or new by any means. But yeah, like I think generally also just understanding the the way people interpret things are different, and we don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell, like, even from whatever I found, that how they're going to be interpreted. It's just more that I just know that it's different, right? And without, I don't personally think that without asking people, how did that come off? Or how did you interpret it? I don't think we can really at this point. Like, we can only look at word frequencies, right? And that's just correlation. It doesn't drive at the why part. I know it's not helping in like what data to collect perhaps, but it's something that I definitely thought a lot about.
Maybe switching to team 2 now with a new, the second challenge. Who wants to speak in the team? We have Abigail. Abigail, you can try to unmute yourself and recap maybe quickly the challenge for us in the beginning.
Great. So yeah, the challenge, as we understood it, was to provide a way after these one-on-one conversations took place for the participants in those conversations to share what they'd learned and maybe how they would approach things differently possibly in the future. Just kind of the broad immediate response from those participants.
Got it. All right. Well, that's great. Do you want to go on with your presentation or demo?
Sure. Can I share my screen? Is that
Sure.
okay? Good. Okay.
And I can see the screen.
Okay, great. um, Good. So yeah, so I guess we just went over, we are team 2, and the team members are myself, I'm the team lead, and I did mostly the back end on this project. And Sandy, who is another developer, she worked primarily on the front end. And then Yoshi, who is a UX UI expert, and she did all sorts of UX related research and also worked very extensively on the visual branding. So I'll just kind of go through the problem, the solution, and some details of our process and what we think of as the impact that our app could have. So we just sort of covered this, so I'm going to kind of skip ahead. So our problem is basically that we are trying to create this recording app, and then a way for not only participants to record their experiences, but also for Listen First to take a look at those responses and use them for promotional or other purposes. So there we go. So our solution, it really has 2 parts. We had a front end that's more participant focused, participant facing. So the participants would complete their conversation and then arrive here where they could accept that their testimonials would be able to be used, and then choose between recording a voice or a video response. And then they would be able to record and review their recording and then submit that. And then the second component to the solution is really a curation tool, which allows, once this video or audio is submitted, Listen First and other America Talks project staff can come in, take a look at a listing of the submitted testimonials, and then review them by taking a look at the media, downloading them if they needed to, and then like submitting a rating so that they can keep track of which submitted testimonials are most useful. So on the front end, we used React, and some of the benefits of that were just being able to make use of the large ecosystem of tools and libraries that React has. So we leaned on 2 projects, React Webcam and React Mic, which allowed us to kind of jumpstart the recording capabilities of our app, and also provided a little more error handling than we probably would have been able to put in on our own in the constraints of the time. On the back end, we used Django and Django REST framework. And the reason for that was that for the curation tool, I wanted to be able to jumpstart that by using the Django's built-in admin capabilities. So Django comes out of the box with a nice admin tool, which then we were able to customize to make that really useful for the Listen First staff. So I'm going to attempt to do a live demo, which is always fun. So hold on, let's see, how do I do this? I'm gonna stop my video for a second as step 1, and what am I doing? Oh, I have to escape out, right? Let me escape out. All right, so here's the front end of our app. This is the participant kind of facing app. And so when they arrive, they can kind of see that this application is branded consistently with the America Talks branding standards. And this really just helps prevent confusion when they arrive on this site. They can read the terms in more detail, accept them, and then move on to decide whether they want to create a video or voice recording. So we do have some nice voice recording visualizations, but I'm going to focus for this demo on the video recording simply because that was the primary ask. So the user is prompted to permit the usage of their video device, and then they'll see kind of a preview of themselves, what's going to be recorded. And then when they're ready, they can start the recording. So. And then after that, you can review what you've recorded. Fantastic. So if I wasn't happy with that, I could try again. Here, I'm just going to submit, and I'll show you what happens on the back end now. So here on the back end, we have our listing of testimonials. This is the admin that we've created. And so now we see that a new participant video has come in, it's unreviewed. So all of this, this listing here can be sorted and filtered on various criteria like the timestamp or the media type, or how it's been reviewed. So like if they only want to look at 5-star videos, you could just select those. So here, once I click on this, I get a custom Django detail view, and I can, again, watch my video to see what it looks like. I can make sure that the terms were accepted. I can say that was a fantastic video. I'm going to give it a 5-star rating. I can download this if I'd like, and then I can save my review. So that is basically the two sides of the application. I was asked to show a little code, so I'm gonna kind of just generally, I don't know, I don't know what to say about this, but for our handling upload is what I'm showing, that we're able to give all this data that we come in with the query parameters. We grab the query, the participant ID from the query parameters. We send whether or not they've accepted the terms, and then we send the media file. I'll go over to, I think I have, okay, yeah, here's my like some of the testimonial model, and for the back end, and you can see there are some custom actions here that we've used to augment kind of the default things that happen on the Django admin. So by default, you wouldn't see the media preview and you wouldn't be able to download directly. So just to make this review process much more pleasant, you can now preview within that screen and also download directly from that screen with just one click. Okay, so I think I'm going to go back to my pitch deck here and kind of continue on. I wanted to talk a little bit about the, I'll start my video again. I wanted to talk a little bit about the UX process that we went through, because we had, it was such a pleasure to have a UX designer on the team. And it really just totally transformed the results we were able to achieve. We started with some of the data that we'd gotten from Listen First. So Yoshi was able to go through the list of the participants who had registered and kind of get an idea of where their demographics were. So we tried to create some user personas based on that data. And then we created user stories that would help us make sure that we were fulfilling the major objectives of the application for both the participants who are recording their videos and also for the Listen First staff, just making sure that the MVP really addresses the core needs. So we went, Yoshi went through a whole bunch of iterations of a user flow and a number of different prototyping stages, going from like quick sketches to more higher fidelity user flow incorporating prototypes, and then finally culminating in this beautiful high fidelity prototype, which takes advantage of the America Talks branding. And also, you can click through all of the elements on this screen to really understand how the application fits together and the screens fit together even before the app is fully built out. I think we largely succeeded in creating a straightforward interface that's on brand and does not confuse the end participant. We also created a simple curation experience that would allow the Listen First staff to really make use of this material. And I think that there are also opportunities to expand both in terms of the recording side and also to support the America Talks program as it goes forward, and then possibly other Listen First initiatives. Broadly speaking, the easy access to the video and audio responses and a curation process will allow America Talks program or the Listen First staff to be able to communicate the value of the America Talks program to media, so journalists, and also to other potential participants in their programs. They'll better understand the conversation experience of participants, as we were just discussing, this material could be leveraged in better understanding of where people are coming from and how successful the program is for them. And finally, they can demonstrate their impact to potential partners and to grant makers. So there are a couple project challenges that I wanted to go over. There are some challenges with video and audio on the web. There are some media format licensing issues. So many of the most commonly used formats, codecs, are not actually freely available. So that, and then there are also like device and browser compatibility issues. So we tried to use the React webcam and React mic to kind of overcome some of these. But it is still a little bit challenging. For Sandy, she really jumped in and just took a lot of initiative with the styling. She had, I think, no experience possibly with Bootstrap prior to this, and she really committed to making the responsive design implementation work. She also mentioned that the time constraint was challenging. I think it was challenging for all of us. For me, I, have not had a great deal of project management experience. And so this was a really good opportunity to understand, what tools were effective without creating such a learning curve that they inhibited us. So next steps, going forward, if this were to be launched, I would consider using a third-party API such as Twilio to facilitate recording. That would allow us to go over kind of overcome the browser or device issues. And it might, one of the things that Listen First was sort of mentioning was that it might be interesting to allow multiple users to discuss their experience at the same time. So that might facilitate that. We'd like to improve our participant experience by including a count up timer that would kind of guide the amount of time they're taking to respond, while also like letting them know that the recording is really happening, but not kind of closing off discussion if they really felt like they had something to say. If Listen First found that useful, we could incorporate additional prompts. And finally, like on the curation side of things, we'd like to create a separate review model, which would allow different staff members or program staff to create their own rating of a media file, so that they could kind of collaborate on which testimonials they'd like to use in future projects. So that is it. Thank you very much. And I will take questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abigail. Martin, do you have any question or feedback?
Yes, this is really quite terrific, and I know the time frame was tight, so my hat's off to you and the whole team and delivering something so robust and so beautiful so quickly. It's really quite excellent. So this looks exactly like something we would want to deploy quickly. That there's a lot of need for this sort of thing that maybe isn't met by some of the out-of-the-box solutions that aren't as on brand or as customizable, that feel more like you're sending users to a third-party platform, which gets drop-off. So this is terrific. So I do think this is something we want to talk about, maybe integrating and deploying in some of our projects.
Okay. Well, thank you for the nice feedback. And I have to say the branding and the visual component is fantastic. And Yoshi and Sandy really work together. Yoshi on the design side, and then Sandy on the implementation side. So I think they did a wonderful job with that.
Well, very much so, I think. And the need is very important because we have we're on track to have more than 10,000 people participating in this event. And even if we just get 100 or 200 people leaving us testimonials, that's a lot to sort through. And it's great to have something this integrated. On the technical front, what is it restoring the recordings in?
Right now, it's storing in WebM.
Okay.
Which like until recently, Safari didn't have good support for WebM. It has adopted support for it. Ideally we would have an MP4 fallback or something like that, which we don't have right now, but
that was going to be one of my questions. And I understand that if there was more time, as you said, integrating the Twilio so that they handle all of the formatting issues.
Right. Yeah. I looked initially at some options like that. There's also Loom has an SDK that's coming out. It's in beta. So I think there are some opportunities to, change how that's handled. But this was the way that it seemed most straightforward for like us to get in there and get it done. So.
Yeah. Do you think with WebM that given some of the browser issues, do you think that it's something that could be deployed, or do you think that some of these things would have to be fixed before it would have enough cross compatibility to be able to live out in the wild?
I would want to go through and like kind of rigorously test because, I think we have at least some information about the users. They all have working webcams, presumably, like coming out of this conversation. So, we don't have to kind of handle weird edge cases like, this webcam is like so ancient that like it can't be seen by, so this solution uses a browser API called Get User Media. So, we wouldn't presume that probably they're using something totally incompatible, but I would want to do like some pretty across the board testing to really feel like it could be launched to a really wide range of users, because that was one of the things that we really saw from the data, was that there really wasn't a clear pattern that we could pull out and say, oh well, there are these clusters of data of types of participants. So
Use case question.
Mhm.
So if we have people who are having events on our conversation platform, then presumably that tab will have access to their webcam hardware.
Mhm.
What do you think happens if when they exit, if they forget to close that tab or turn their video off? Will there be a conflict? Is this something we need to think through in our user paths?
Yeah, so that is why I turned off my video, because right now it can't handle the two sources. And I don't know if that is actually something that's built into the way Get User Media is handled. Let's say that you can't have multiple recording sources, because like that seems like it would be a safe default to prevent people from accidentally being recorded without realizing that they're being recorded. So I don't really know in terms of error handling, like that would be something that I would want to figure out. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for demoing so well and presenting this project, and clearly being very motivated by it. So thanks again to the whole team. I want to take some time. It's already 6:45 for Team 3 and Natalie. Do you want to go on with your solution? Great. I can see the screen. Maybe begin by giving us a little bit of your background and more about you, so we get to know you.
Okay. So I'm a visual designer, contract visual designer part-time, but I'm a UX designer. Yeah,
I think you got pretty unlucky in the beginning, because you couldn't attend the launch event, and then people in your team were moving to another. So you did that pretty much alone, maybe not completely, but yeah. So I just wanted to. All right.
Yes, my team started dropping out for various reasons, so I decided to go ahead on my own.
And that is very frequent. Sorry for interrupting, but that happened many times before. So yeah, thank you very much for doing it.
Yeah, well, Julie was able to come in and help me with something with the project. So that was really helpful, because I did get stuck on something, and she was able to hop in and work on something for me and help me push through. So that was great. So yeah, so this is a no code solution to the problem as a result. So my objective for this was, yes, providing America Talks with testimonials after the event, but also I wanted to get feedback as well about the event and people's experiences in general as data as well, because I always think that's very important to have. So this is a team, me and Julie. So yeah, the purpose was to provide valuable feedback and data to be used as marketing tools and just information for yourself as if you want to do the event again, what kind of information in general can you gather from an event like this? So some of the problems that, I came across in doing research in general with some of the wants for doing a survey is, how will people feel about doing a video testimonial or being recorded? Will there be privacy concerns? So, and will people want to take the time to do it? And also, how can we pass data to you in an organized way? So the solution was to just do something super simple, easy to use, let people know that their feedback is very valuable, and that also to give them options that maybe they can record a video or they can also write one if they want to as well. Let them know that it's a short survey and create a linked submit button that organizes all of the information at the end for America Talks to go through easily. So basically how it works is that the survey is a two-step process. It's a testimonial first, and then it's a survey afterward. So people can choose to record or write one, then they hit submit and the data becomes downloadable. And then I embedded a type form survey into the page as well. So I incorporated the same typography, colors, logo as America Talks. So everything looks cohesive. People know where they are when they land there. So yeah, some of the challenges were, figuring out how to record and transcribe something just really wasn't going to work in one place, especially because I was doing it at a no cost, no code level. So, and also, working around saving the testimonials in a way where everything was linked with one user. So I'll show you how it works. So this is the page. So people know when they land here, they've just participated in the event, and encouraging them to provide feedback in just 2 steps. So they have the option to record a video, and it says your name, where you live, and explain what you loved and what you learned from your one-on-one conversation. And people can click this and upload a video, which ideally they could either record on their computer or on their phone and just upload it here. They can also type in a testimonial and then upload a photo if they want to as well. Also, the idea with information like that, you can have that and use it for creating marketing materials like this, where you can use photos for people. And when you hit the submit button, it all gets saved on this. I used Bubble. So it all gets saved on Bubble, which you can also download into a chart. So each one of these rows is a submission. So if people write a testimonial, it's here. If they upload a photo, there's a link. If there's a video, it's here, and it's date and time stamped as well. So you can convert this to an Excel sheet if you want, but it's all in a list. Then, there's some transparency letting people know that if they do submit something, it will be used for marketing purposes, or, whichever way you want to word it, obviously. Step 2 would be, I just tested it out, so I'm reloading it. A type form survey, which I embedded. So I think this is a great opportunity to learn about the people who participated. So I think 3 minutes is like the maximum amount of time that people would probably want to spend on something like this. So, and it's a good way for people to know, how much time am I really going to be doing this survey? Because they may not want to start something if it's going to take too long. Plus, they can also scroll through the questions and see, okay, are these all going to be fill-ins or multiple choice, et cetera. So start off with some demographic questions, because also that way, if you choose to branch out your survey, depending on how they answer certain questions, that's a good idea, because maybe you want to change your survey based on how people identify politically. That way you can see, okay, maybe we should ask them more leading questions. Also based on the information that Emiko found, based on wording, you can change how you word questions. You can do things like hierarchy of words. And you can ask people, you know, what did they learn during their conversation? What did they enjoy? What's something that can be improved? Would you recommend it? How would you rate it? And something I like about Typeform is that you can see things, especially in multiple choice, is by percentages. So you can see how the majority of people have answered questions. You can scroll through their answers. It's just a very organized way of just visually seeing all of the data. And you can also branch questions. It's just a great way to use a survey. So yeah, so this is my no-code solution for the survey at the end of the conversation.
Looks great then. Thank you very much. Did you learn anything doing that? Was it interesting for you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I never used Bubble before, so that was a learning experience. And yeah, you know, just kind of wrapping your brain around the idea of, you know, maybe I really was very much stuck on people not wanting to record a video. There are options, you know, there are plugins available through Bubble, but you do have to pay for them. So there are options where you can integrate something that can record something. But, you know, when I looked into it, I feel like the more I asked people, the more I did research, people may not want to record a video of themselves and upload it somewhere because they're just not sure where things are going. So giving people the option, I think, to also write a testimonial, I think is a really good idea. So yeah, it's yeah, I just learning Bubble in itself was very interesting. And so
Okay, sounds good. Well, Martin, do you have any question?
Yeah, this is great because you've hit on pretty similar to the way we're actually planning to do it for the event, since we don't have something custom like what Team 2 put together. So, you know, with our resources, we've been looking at the type of no-code solution. And so you've hit a few of these same challenges. And this is in the nonprofit space. This is really important because often we don't have the time, budget, or whatnot, and we have to look at wrapping together these off the shelf. I wasn't familiar with Bubble either. It's very interesting. I'll have to take a look at that. One of the challenges that we've had that I'm curious your thoughts about, you know, you hit this when you said a lot of people don't want to do video testimonials. So from a UX perspective, how do you think about this exit path where you want to get your survey in? Because we actually have an academic team who's put together a 7-question survey that we put a lot of time into for our exit survey. So that's one part of your exit path, but you also want the opportunity to have video or photo because that's so powerful for future promotion, and you want a text-based testimonial. So you've really got 3 asks and you don't want to overwhelm people. How do you integrate that into one solid exit path so that they understand that they have these options, but they don't immediately hit something that they react to and then stop participating in our exit path? So with all of that background, I'm curious, if you were to weave in a video option, how would you order things to maximize participation?
Well, I would probably take out well, I have the record a video option, but so I would take that out and replace it with the plugin of you know, a camera, allow the camera to record you. So I would definitely replace that with that option then.
And would you lead with that and make it optional, or would you lead with the survey?
Well, so the way that I wrote it was choose one or both. So you could potentially change the microcopy to say, we encourage you to do both, because if that is something that does interest you and you really do want to have both from the one user, I would change it to say, we encourage you to choose both, but you can choose one, something like that. Because I do think, like, personally, I would not record a video of myself and upload it to a website. I wouldn't know where it would be going. It's just not something I would feel comfortable with, because yes, it may be used for marketing material, but there's a lot of people that put themselves out there, but there's also a lot of people that don't want to. So you could potentially be losing out on a lot of testimonials if you don't give them an option, is my logic behind it as well.
That makes sense, because one of the things we do on other sites within our Listen First Coalition is have sliders of quotes, and sometimes with photos, but they're not videos. And so we don't want to disqualify people who might engage at that level, but not the full level. Our hypothesis, our hope is that with this work, we have a good privacy policy and data policy, but no one reads that. But it is a very feel-good type of testimonial. We're not asking people to give a political opinion. We're asking them to say, oh, I was surprised and I actually had a positive experience with somebody.
Yeah, and that's also, I think, a concern is that I also had thought about, was that, are people going to be concerned about being vilified if they identify as one or the other? So, we're in a very sensitive political climate, so maybe people don't want to be that open about that type of stuff in a public manner. So
What did you think? What did you think? Do you have any feedback? Because
I think the solutions really are interesting. I love the emphasis on UX through these. That's a really great thread, and I think you've all done a wonderful job of keeping the user in mind. I'm a back-end engineer, so I instantly throw the user away and say, this is, they're the problem. They're the people who send in problem tickets. Okay, I understand. But no, I've worked with UX engineers before, and when it's it can be a really wonderful collaboration. It sounds like you guys have hit that, and I really applaud you for that. That you've dug into it and learned a lot, and kept that focus, which is really important.
well, I think this could be the word of the end. Looking forward to connecting with you again in the future. Thank you so much for all the hard work and impressive work that you've proposed tonight. And I will keep in touch on Slack. See you soon.